Hey everyone, I wanted to do a quick case study, and I thought this was a great example of why mitochondria and the nervous system are the two most key, most upstream, most foundational parts of the body, parts of the human experience to look at when you're working with someone. Because this person came to me from very traditional functional medicine, and unfortunately, I have a master's in functional medicine, and when I did it, it was true root cause work. But the people that I often get from these traditional medicine practices are being put on all sorts of supplements that are just like supporting an organ or supporting a cell biochemical process. But the people that they've been working with are completely missing the fact that they need significant support for mitochondria and cellular health, including their cell membranes, as well as their nervous system. And they stay in that functional medicine wheel because they never get better. And in fact, they get worse a lot of times because we're throwing herbs and binders and we're throwing biofilm busters at someone who has no cellular energy. Everything in the body happens based on the fact that every process requires that ATP. And without it, when the mitochondria are not happy, when they're in cell danger response, when they've closed up shop, when they're in that protection mode, when they're not making energy or they don't have the raw nutrients, that is a recipe for disaster to throw a bunch of herbs at someone and a bunch of methylated B vitamins. They're going to feel horrible. So I just wanted to show you, I have a Substack called, I believe it's titled How to Check Your Labs for Mitochondria issues or kinks in the chain of like the electron transport chain or things that the mitochondria or cell membranes need for them to be happy. So if you go to my Substack, it's one of probably the first five or six that I wrote. And I wanted to hop on because this is someone who also has been told maybe they have MCAS because they're not able to eat hardly anything. And I want to say that that doesn't mean that you have MCAS. So I didn't actually see any signs and almost any symptoms of MCAS when we started working together. So just a quick rundown on their labs, they were pretty significantly low in sodium. And if you see the electrolytes imbalance, and this was almost a year of getting blood work tested that sodium was this low, that to me is like a big, big, big red flag for low aldosterone and poor adrenal output. So when we have this really low aldosterone and the body is not able to hold on to tissue sodium, what's going to happen? We're going to be pretty dehydrated. Sodium and potassium are the very important electrolytes for that cell function, for the sodium potassium pump that lets things in and lets things out. And you can already tell just by this first marker that if we don't have the electrical capacity to communicate from the outside of the cell to the inside of the cell, then so many things are going to go wrong, right? We're not going to be able to let go of waste. We're not going to be able to let things in that the mitochondria need to be happy. So already we can understand like why someone might have POT symptoms and just feel weak and dizzy and heart racing. The electrolytes are so important for regulating heart rate. Okay, so that's a big red flag. The second one is this super low CO2 number. This is something I see in almost every person that I have worked with in the last couple of years. And carbon dioxide is not a waste product. It is a marker that tells me how much oxygen your mitochondria are getting, because not only do the mitochondria help to make carbon dioxide as a byproduct, but also that carbon dioxide is what's letting your hemoglobin release oxygen into so that the tissues, the cells can actually get that oxygen. So low CO2 can be a marker that either the mitochondria are not producing enough carbon dioxide and we're breathing off way too much carbon dioxide. So you'll see this in really stressed people, really anxious people that have really shallow breathing. And of course, that's going to be chronic sympathetic activation, which could be from stress and trauma, modern day living. It could also be from injuries, from being in pain. It can also be from hypermobility and postural issues that are contributing to that. So there's a lot of reasons there. I kind of see all of those things in my practice with every person. Carbon dioxide is also a big red flag for like how is our pH of the body doing. So again, parts of the body need to be more alkaline, parts need to be more acidic. This is typically meaning that the blood is now getting too alkaline. However, the tissues, the cells are becoming more acidic. So the cells, the mitochondria will switch to a different type of metabolism that's going to produce way more things like the organic acids as a byproduct, which also make us feel really trashy and horrible. So already a big red flag. We also see a really pretty stressed liver. So this could be potentially from an infection, although when we look at her infection markers, they're actually not elevated. This could be from fatty liver. When we look at blood sugar, it actually wasn't that bad. This can also be from maybe a blocked bile duct or really sludgy bile flow. So like the bile gets really thick and sludgy. And the last thing is what I think is probably happening here because it's such a limited diet. Alkaline phosphatase is one of the the stronger markers for poor bile production. And this could be genetic, maybe. This is also a zinc-dependent enzyme, and considering the diet she's had, definitely going to be low in zinc, so that also makes sense there. And then we'll most likely see more of those estrogenic symptoms too. So that can drive up histamine, drive up fertility issues, drive up trouble with fertility, pregnancy, and things like that. And all of those symptoms were pretty much present. Then the last thing I want to talk about just from the blood work standpoint is we can see there's pretty significant low iron going on. She didn't have, whoever was working with her before didn't do a full iron panel, which I thought was pretty bizarre considering these symptoms because all of the symptoms of anemia were present. And you see this super low hemoglobin. So if we already have low iron, low hemoglobin, and considering the really restrictive diet, not getting enough zinc or iron, absolutely. Like we already know that, but also being given iron pills and still, nothing's moving the needle, as well as liver support and some other things, but we won't go into that right now. But anyways, so we have a pretty clear picture that we have all of the POT symptoms, all of the anemia symptoms, which a lot of those overlap. Air hunger, feeling like you can't catch your breath, severe weakness, exercise intolerance, dizziness, all of those things, bruising. So that is also like, okay, we've got already really low iron, and then we have low CO2. So we're probably pretty hypoxic, which means we're in a lot of inflammation, and the mitochondria are not able to make energy very well at all. So then everything else is going to struggle and be affected by that. Okay, you can see her infection markers were pretty good. She does not have a very high eosinophil marker, so if any of the symptoms might be related to histamine, I'm not sure if they're like a true allergy. Blood sugar was pretty good. Because of so many markers of dehydration, we're going to see the kidney kind of struggling. So that also makes sense. And we're dehydrated on a cellular level because mitochondria not only make ATP, but they also make exclusion zone water as a byproduct, which is keeping that healthy cell voltage. And that's essentially what's keeping us cellularly hydrated. So when we've got that going on, then the kidneys are going to struggle. This also can go back up to that sodium we started with. The kidneys are involved with regulating our sodium and potassium. And if the kidneys are struggling, we could have issues with sodium and potassium levels as well. So we did a little bit of an explanation or a little bit of a summary. Now in bioenergetics, we had a lot of stuff that was confirmed, including choline resonating as, okay, we need some choline to help make, to help support the liver, to help with cell membranes, that phosphatidylcholine, to also help with making acetylcholine for the nervous system. Did I pass the minerals? Yeah, we obviously see iron, not surprised to see that at all. We see a lot of amino acids, like I mentioned, really restrictive diet, so not a lot of protein or meat. So I'm not surprised to see a lot of these, which these are going to support the liver as well. So the liver can basically do its job. Um, Lots of omega-3s and omega-6s. So we need both of those for healthy cell membranes as well as a healthy immune system. And then let's see, I think those were the big things that I wanted to point out. With bioenergetics, we just see a lot of overlap. It's basically confirming things that we're already going to see on the blood work showing up. So if you're interested in understanding the body through this lens of mitochondria and nervous system, check out my Substack, Amanda Panacea. And you can also find me on Instagram at Amanda Panacea, and I will see you guys next time.